One pill. That's all it takes to flood your brain with more serotonin than it normally releases in weeks. Your heart rate spikes 40%. Every touch, every sound, every stranger feels like pure magic. Now imagine doing that every single week for a year. By month 6, 30% of frequent users are showing depressive symptoms. By month 12, the brain's serotonin system has lost over 20% of its function. The question isn't whether the damage happens, it's how quickly the magic turns on you, and it all begins with a single chemical flood. Inside the human brain, MDMA does not just nudge a few switches. It kicks open the chemical floodgates. Within minutes of swallowing a pill, the drug hijacks the serotonin transporter, known as SERT, forcing it to work in reverse. Picture a busy subway where, instead of passengers leaving the train, they all rush back onto the platform at once. Serotonin, the brain's feel-good messenger, pours into every synapse, saturating circuits that control mood, empathy, and sensory perception. This is the core of the high, a supercharged wave of connection and joy, engineered by a single molecule. But serotonin is not the only player. MDMA also prompts a surge of dopamine and norepinephrine, giving the experience its energetic, almost electric edge. Heart rate climbs, blood vessels constrict. The world feels sharper, brighter, more alive. Meanwhile, deep in the hypothalamus, the serotonin rush triggers a release of oxytocin, the so-called bonding hormone. That is the secret behind the sudden urge to hug a stranger or pour your heart out to a friend. Neuroscientists call this the empathogen effect. For a few hours, the brain's social barriers dissolve. A neuroscientist might describe it like this. Imagine your brain's chemical bathtub suddenly overflowing. Every faucet, serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, is turned on full blast. The water rises so fast, the normal drains cannot keep up. That is why the effects hit so hard, so quickly. But there is a catch. All this chemical activity comes with a price. The same serotonin flood that creates euphoria also jams the brain's thermostat. The hypothalamus, which normally keeps body temperature in check, gets overwhelmed. That is why overheating and dehydration are real risks, especially on crowded dance floors. Even a 1-degree rise in core temperature can push the body into dangerous territory. The initial surge is spectacular, but it is also temporary. As serotonin stores empty out, the high fades. The brain's chemical bathtub does not refill instantly. Over the next hours and eventually weeks, the system begins to strain. The party on the surface hides a deeper story. The more often you flood the system, the harder it becomes for the brain to recover. This is the foundation for everything that comes next. The slow shift from magic to aftermath, all set in motion by a single massive chemical wave. Alex's first night on Ecstasy does not begin quietly. The festival crowd is a living organism, lights pulsing, bass rumbling, bodies pressed close. The tablet hits in under half an hour. Suddenly, the world cracks open. Colors sharpen, music vibrates through skin, and every touch feels like a secret handshake. Alex grins so hard his jaw aches, muscles tense and jittering with energy. He cannot stop moving, dancing, hugging, laughing at nothing and everything. His heart pounds, racing up by nearly a third, but it only adds to the thrill. It is as if someone turned up the volume on life and forgot where the knob was. People talk about MDMA as a love drug, but it is more than that. Right now, Alex feels like he is plugged into the crowd. Every stranger a friend, every friend a soulmate. The urge to talk, to share, to tell stories and secrets comes out in a rush. Even the air seems to hum with possibility. It is easy to see why someone would want this feeling again. Why not? For a few hours, the world is perfect, but the body keeps score. Sweat pours down Alex's back, his mouth dry as sand. He gulps water, careful not to drink too much. He has heard stories about people collapsing from overhydration or dehydration. The thin line between euphoria and danger. His heart rate hovers at the edge of safe, veins buzzing with adrenaline. The jaw clench gets worse as the night goes on, teeth grinding to the beat. These are the small prices paid for a night that feels like magic. In the bathroom mirror, Alex's pupils are huge, eyes bright and wild. He barely recognizes himself. He has never felt so alive, but there is a flicker of something else. a sense that this cannot last forever. For now, though, the come down is just a rumor. The party is still roaring, and Alex is at the center of it, chasing that electric high until sunrise. The first few times, one pill is enough. But the magic fades fast. By the third or fourth week, Alex notices the high isn't as sharp. The music still pounds, but the rush feels muted. He hesitates, then reaches for a second tablet. This is how it starts: the chase. Research shows that after just a few weeks of weekly MDMA, the peak effects can drop by 15 to 25%. It is not just in Alex's head. The brain adapts, building tolerance like armor against the flood of serotonin and dopamine. To get back to that original euphoria, many users up their dose, sometimes by a third, sometimes by a half. A single night can turn into 2 or 3 redoses, each one stretching the limits. But more is not always better. As the dose climbs, so do the risks. The chance of overheating, dehydration, and next-day exhaustion grows with every extra tablet. The come-down gets heavier, the afterglow shorter. For some, the chase becomes routine, a cycle of anticipation, brief relief, and disappointment. The numbers do not lie. Most people who use MDMA regularly will find themselves needing more to feel less. Alex weighs the second pill in his palm, remembering the first night's thrill. He wants that feeling back. But each dose pushes the finish line further away. The pursuit of the high slowly replaces the high itself. It is a subtle shift, but it is the beginning of a new pattern, one that is much harder to break. Sleep, once automatic, starts to slip out of reach. After a night on MDMA, Alex finds himself lying awake, eyes wide, mind buzzing with leftover static. It is not just the excitement, there is a biological reason. The serotonin surge that powered the high now leaves the brain's sleep machinery scrambled. Studies show that even after the party ends, it can take hours longer to fall asleep. For many, sleep onset is delayed by 2, sometimes 3 hours. The rest that does come is shallow, broken by sudden wake-ups and restless dreams. Morning hits harder than expected. Alex drags himself to work, eyelids heavy, thoughts moving in slow motion. Reaction times, the split-second decisions needed to catch a coffee cup or answer a question, are dulled by 10 to 15%. That does not sound dramatic until you realize it is the difference between catching a falling phone and watching it shatter. The effect lingers for a full day, sometimes longer, even after a single dose. At his desk, Alex yawns through meetings, words slipping away mid-sentence. Details blur, small mistakes creep in. It is easy to blame a late night, but the pattern repeats week after week. The cost is not just lost sleep, it is a creeping sense of fog, a subtle slowing that seeps into everyday life. The party may be over, but the after effects follow Alex into the daylight, quietly reshaping the rhythm of his days. By month 3, the party starts to lose its color. Alex still goes out, still takes the pill, but something is different. The rush is there, but the warmth that once felt like a sunrise now flickers cold. PET scans from chronic users reveal a hidden shift. The serotonin transporter, SERT, has dropped by 15% in key brain regions. It is a number that sounds technical, but the reality is simple. The chemical messenger that once made Alex feel deeply connected is running low, and his brain is struggling to keep up. Conversations that used to flow now feel forced. Laughter lands flat. Alex catches himself smiling out of habit, not out of joy. The world is still loud, still bright, but it is like watching a movie through a fogged window. Nearly half of regular users at this stage report an emotional flatness, a dulling of highs and lows. Empathy, once effortless, becomes a memory. Friends' stories wash over him. He nods, but the feeling does not land. It is not just mood. Tasks that once felt easy now take more effort. Executive function, the brain's ability to plan, focus, and juggle details, starts to slip. Simple things like remembering why he walked into a room or following a group chat become harder. Scientists call it brain fog. For Alex, it is a slow, creeping haze that settles in after each weekend, refusing to clear. He notices the change most when he is alone. The afterglow is gone, replaced by a sense of detachment. The euphoria he chases feels mechanical, like a routine he cannot break. He wonders if anyone else sees it, or if the mask is still holding. This is the fade, not a crash, but a quiet drifting away from the feelings that once pulled him in. The thrill is still there, but the meaning behind it is slipping through his fingers. 6 months in, the cracks are impossible to ignore. Alex sits at his laptop, eyes glazed, a deadline slipping by for the 3rd time this month. The party nights are a distant blur. What lingers now is a grayness that settles over everything: motivation, mood, even the taste of morning coffee. It is not just Alex. Around 30% of regular users report depressive symptoms by this point. That is not a mood swing. That is a third of people feeling stuck in a low they cannot shake. The science backs it up. PET scans show the hippocampus, crucial for memory and emotion, running on empty. Neuroimaging reveals reduced activity, a quieting of the circuits that once sparked joy and drive. For many, grades and job performance nosedive. One study found weekly MDMA users lost an average of 0.6 points from their GPA within 6 months. Absences pile up. Work slips, the cost is no longer hidden in the background. It is front and center. Compulsive patterns start to take hold. That urge to redose, to chase the old magic, is not just about fun anymore. Early research suggests that about 15% of weekly users develop behaviors that look a lot like addiction, using more than planned, feeling unable to stop, and needing the drug just to feel normal. An addiction clinician puts it bluntly, the red flag isn't how much you are taking, it is when you keep going, even as your life unravels. The myth that ecstasy cannot be addictive falls apart here. The pull is real, and for some, it is relentless. Alex finds himself counting down to the next weekend, not for the thrill, but for relief from the emptiness that follows each come down. Friends notice he is different, quieter, withdrawn, always tired. He shrugs it off, but inside, the question grows louder. What if this does not stop? The turning point has arrived, and it is not subtle. It is a slow motion slide from party highs to a fight just to feel okay. 12 months on, the party feels like a distant echo. The numbers tell their own story. A 22% loss of serotonin transporters, the chemical gatekeepers that once fueled Alex's early highs. That is not just a lab result. It is the reason why joy feels muted, why laughter does not land the same way. Memory, too, has taken a hit. On standardized tests, long-term users like Alex score about half a standard deviation below average. Names slip away, details blur, everyday tasks demand more effort. Mood is a different landscape now. Nearly 1 in 5 regular users report symptoms of depression after a year, compared to just 5% in the general population. The world feels flatter, colors less vivid. Sleep, once a refuge, is broken for 6 out of 10. Nights are restless, dreams vivid or absent, mornings heavy. Even after stopping, only a small fraction, about 7%, see a real rebound in brain chemistry within the first year. The contrast is stark. The first pill promised connection, energy, a shortcut to happiness. A year later, the cost is measured in lost resilience, dulled emotions, and a sense that the old self is out of reach. What started as a weekly escape has quietly rewritten what normal feels like. Not everything you hear about ecstasy holds up in the real world. First, the addiction myth. People say MDMA is not addictive. Yet early research shows about 1 to 2% of users develop a pattern that meets clinical criteria for substance use disorder. For those who push into weekly use, that risk may climb higher. Most do not get hooked, but some do, and it is not always obvious who will cross the line. Next up, purity. Street ecstasy is a gamble. Fewer than half of tested pills contain pure MDMA. The rest are laced with methamphetamine, cathinones, or unknown chemicals. Hospital records show that nearly all fatal reactions are linked to adulterants, not pure MDMA. Testing your pills with a reagent kit is not paranoia, it is basic harm reduction. Then there is the therapy confusion. Clinical MDMA for post-traumatic stress disorder is nothing like a festival binge. In trials, a single pharmaceutical-grade dose is given under medical supervision, with months between sessions. No club, no redosing, no mixing with alcohol. The risk profile is worlds apart. What about antidepressants? Mixing MDMA with selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors does not make for a stronger high. It actually blocks most of the effect and can raise the risk of serotonin syndrome, a potentially life-threatening reaction. Finally, the redose trap. Chasing the high with a second or third pill does not double the pleasure. It just puts more strain on your brain and body, raising the odds of overheating, dehydration, and a brutal come down. A harm reduction worker puts it simply: test your stuff, space your sessions, do not mix, and do not redose. Most problems start when people ignore those basics. When the myths fall away, what is left is a clearer path. Know what you are taking, how often, and why. The difference between a story with a safe ending and one that goes off the rails often comes down to these choices. Right now, 1 in 7 regular MDMA users shows signs of persistent mood changes, even when the parties stop. As science races to unlock the brain's secrets, the line between thrill and fallout gets blurrier. The real question is not just what ecstasy does tonight, but what it rewires for every tomorrow. How much of the magic is worth the cost? Let me know your take in the comments below.